Hello, it's Phillip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. And it's my privilege today to review a book from the Legal Action Group, the Access to Justice charity. It's a book which I've found very helpful and very interesting to read. It's called Housing Conditions, Tenants Rights, and it's in the 6th edition. It's been written by a number of people, one who will be known to all of you, His Honour Judge Jan Luba, Queen's Counsel, Catherine O'Donnell and Giles. And I think this book is a first-class book. I'm delighted to be able to review it, and I thank Esther Pilger and LAG for sending it to me for review. I've met and been in front of His Honour Judge Luba, and he is a man who knows exactly what he is talking about, and he actually is the fount of knowledge, in my view, in this area of law. And we're very grateful to have such expertise, in my view, on display with this work, because this is where you're going to find the law, the procedures, and try to understand what is an emotive, and actually it's a difficult area of law, as I know from some of the cases I've done. Now, the review title that Elizabeth and I have given this book review is Representing Tenants with Issues of Disrepair. This is the definitive and accessible text you need, and it's a book you will find in the courts, of course, as well. Elizabeth was the lead writer on the book. Let me show it to you. It's very much the house style of the Legal Action Group. There's the front, then there's the side, the spine, and then the back. You probably can't see much of it because of the way it's done, as usual. Sort of greyish print and a dark background makes it difficult to read. Now you can see here there's a shaded portion at the back. That back shaded portion is actually the appendix section, and I'll just get to that first. You can see the appendices there, and so you can see again it's easy to find, very much as I say, house style of LAG. You've got a detailed, I thought a very good and very detailed index, as is to be expected. These books are very important, these Legal Action Group books, because they are very useful for practitioners. They're very useful in court work, but they're also very accessible to ordinary people, and I think that's very important. There is some blurb about the writers, and then there's the front page there. Then you've got the blurb from LAG. It's also available as an ebook, and there is in fact a note in the book at the front with a website address if you want to get a version of the ebook. And then you've got a short, and just get to it, a short author's note from the authors about where we are, and that's the law reflects an understanding of the law of England as at the 20th of March 2019. Then you've got a contents section, very standard sort of structure again, with the various rights set out. 7 main chapters, then a series of appendices, 4 appendices. Then you have tables of cases, and of course you're going to have a lot of them, and statutes. Then after that you're going to get some statutory instruments, and then after that some abbreviations. Abbreviations are very helpful in this area of law because it's so easy to forget a particular abbreviation. I mean, I know what ADR is, Alternative Dispute Resolution, but sometimes you can just forget. It's easy, in a slip of the mind, if you like. So it's very useful to have them. Sometimes I think, well, what is that actually? So the abbreviation is very helpful, and it's very helpful for unrepresented parties. Then you've got the introduction with a short little mini index for each page, chapter, which I find very helpful. It sets out what the book's about. You've got paragraph numbering down the side there, and you do have footnoting to justify assertions made. And that's basically how it runs all the way through with the chapters. Then you get, as I say, at the end, you get to the appendix, and the appendices have, for instance, the Landlord and Tenant Act 1985 is reprinted and so forth. Well, there's the book. Now, what do we say about it? Because we've written quite a long review about this, and we say this: bad housing conditions in the rented sector could rightly be called a social evil, and one that is a worryingly widespread problem. That's of course why we see them in court. They come to see me and they see other people, and we have litigation sometimes. Fortunately, occupiers of rented housing and their advisors can at least turn to this definitive legal text from the Legal Action Group for expert and informed advice on the various avenues of redress available to those having to endure adverse conditions in rented accommodation. And unfortunately, it's more widespread than you would think, and a lot of people don't complain, because of course the basic policy should always be never go to law if you can avoid it, because it's so expensive, time consuming, and it's wear and tear on your life. I think people should realise that, because quite often they will go into the basis of deciding to sue someone without actually really understanding the full implications of what's going to happen. And I do feel when I see them in conference that it's important to put that point to clients so they know they have the reality check as to exactly what's going to happen. Because tenants in a position I've just outlined, and certainly their legal representatives, can also take heart from a recent piece of legislation that LAG refers to as the biggest advance in tenants' rights relating to the housing conditions for a generation. And that is, of course, the Human Habitation Act 2018. Came into force in March 2019, and about time too, one is tempted to say. And I'm hoping when we get rid of this dreadful Brexit stuff that we will get back to a proper domestic agenda and start looking at the real issues that are affecting people on a day-to-day basis. I'll get that point in immediately, because so much has been spent on this matter with Europe, and it's been very bad for the population. And I'm hoping that I'm recording this during the general election campaign, but I'm just hoping something will give and we can get on and start reforming those areas that need reform. This is one area, because housing certainly in London is a very, very high level issue. Now, as the Legal Action Group explain, the new 6th edition takes a broader approach to housing conditions in the light of the new Act, as indicated by the title, because the previous editions were called Repairs, Tenants Rights. And as the authors Jan Luba, Catherine O'Donnell and Giles Peaker point out, most of the relevant law in these matters is not simple. The book, they explain, is light on legal theory and heavy on practicalities, as to be expected, generally speaking, from LAG titles. Although I know Steve Hines likes to put a few more sort of theoretical books out occasionally, but this is basically their main aim. The sheer complexity inherent in this area of law is certainly illustrated by numerous examples detailed in the text, much of which refers to the obligations and responsibilities of landlords to effect repairs. The text stresses that the landlord's knowledge of the defect must be proved, even if the disrepair or unfitness is latent. A tenant injured by the collapse of a ceiling, which no one could have expected to fall, cannot recover damages from his or her landlord for breach of the repairing obligations. It's the knowledge of the landlord which is important, and that little extract's, I think, an important one to bear in mind. The discussion then here centres on the need for said knowledge to come from a responsible source. That's going to be an interesting development and interpretation of what that means. To say this is a difficult area of law, then, is something of an understatement. Focusing on practicalities as it does, this book performs, we believe, a valuable service for those facing the challenge of going to court over predictably contentious issues. And I thank LAG for that, because that's really what their mission statement is. They've been like that all the way through. Some people don't like their books. I think they're brilliant, and I always have done. When I started at the bar, I found them very, very helpful, and I've never changed or wavered from there. I'm very grateful that we have them, because I remember the days when we didn't, and it was rather different then. But that was rather, unfortunately, that was 50 years ago, which dates me a bit. It proves, therefore, it provides this book, therefore, that the extensive tables of cases are extremely helpful. The statutes are detailed, and the statutory instruments are very detailed. So you should be able to find what you're looking for. There are 4 appendices, of course, as well, including legislation and precedent. And there's a section on technical information, understanding experts' reports. I think, again, that's important, because although there's a lot of uncertainty about who an expert should be and the quality of some of the experts. I'm very much associated with the Expert Witness Institute, and we are looking at accreditation systems to come in, and I think that is the future, because experts will be able to give a definitive view and they stand one step back from the parties, so that will assist the judge in making a final decision. It's a very handy book, and I presented it as usual in a compact paperback format, and it's very useful, of course, to take to court. Once again, we say that we're delighted to say that LAG have produced an authoritative and a reliable text designed to be as accessible to tenants and landlords as it is to their legal advisors, and I hasten to add, to the court. The date of the publication of the 6th edition is cited as at the 14th of May, and as I've indicated, it's available as an ebook. And as the authors said, the law, just to repeat, the law is as at the 20th of March 2019. There's the book again, the spine and then the back. Just opening it in the middle, it's a nice light book. Chapter 4, you see the structure again, house style, nice little index for the chapter, so you can find things very quickly. That's another thing about LAG publications, you can find things. It starts off, this one's about legal aid. Not going to talk about legal aid, that's another issue, but it does talk about it and what's happened. We are in the process, probably with a new government, of having another look at everything, but unfortunately, everything's in limbo at the moment. You can see the structure again. You've got the paragraph numbering and you've got the footnotes. Then, as I say, right at the end, just to remind you, there's a very useful detailed index. Well, thank you to Judge Luba. Thank you to Catherine and to Giles very much indeed. I'm very grateful to be able to review this work. I would like to thank everybody. You make our lives so much easier. Thank you. Bye-bye.